You know, what happens when a legal document reads less like a formal complaint and more like an urgent SOS signal? Well, that's exactly what we're going to break down today. This is a direct appeal sent to the Attorney General of California by Dr. Mohamed Fayad, and it details some extremely serious allegations against top city officials. Right from the jump, Dr. Fayad does not mince words. He opens his appeal with this incredibly powerful phrase, and it immediately sets the tone for what he describes as a story of profound injustice.
So, let's get a handle on who the key players are in this drama. First, you've got the complainant, Dr. Mohamed Fayad. He's taking his case straight to the top, to the California Attorney General. And who is he accusing? We're talking about the highest levels of his city's leadership, the mayor, the district attorney, and the sheriff.
Now, according to Dr. Fayad, the forced eviction didn't just happen out of the blue. He alleges that it was actually the final act in a months-long campaign of escalating pressure, something he calls a campaign of terror.
The complaint lays out a pretty clear timeline for this. It all reportedly started last July with what he calls systematic violations. By December, that had escalated to threats of eviction. And then it all culminated in the forced eviction itself this past February. So you might be asking, what did that initial pressure actually look like? Dr. Fayad describes it as constant psychological terror. He claims there were threats made against his reputation and even his credit score. And crucially, he says this was all done without any legal basis whatsoever. And the allegations of collusion, well, they go even deeper. Dr. Fayad points to an agency called Silicon Valley Good Living. He claims that while its stated purpose was to provide social services, its real aim was to harvest his personal banking and social security data to make his allegedly illegal eviction possible. Okay, so all of this buildup leads us to the central event of the complaint, the forced eviction. This is the moment that Dr. Fayad describes as the brutal, absolute climax of his entire ordeal. 7. Just let that sink in for a second. That's the number of armed officers Dr. Fayad alleges stormed his home to carry out the eviction. And who were they there to evict with this incredible show of force? Just one person, a single elderly man. And how much time was he given to pack up his life and leave the home he was living in? A mere 30 minutes. That's it. He describes the treatment he received during those 30 minutes as completely dehumanizing, a total lack of human standards. He alleges he was stripped of his dignity, stating he was denied even basic privacy during the whole process. But for Dr. Fayad, this wasn't just about the actions of a few individual officers. His complaint argues that this was a much larger, systemic failure, one that involves the city's entire leadership structure. And he's not just blaming anonymous officers either. He explicitly names the people he holds legally accountable, the mayor, the district attorney, and the sheriff. He argues that they are the ones who are ultimately responsible for the actions of their departments. He doesn't see this as some standard procedure that just went wrong. He uses this incredibly strong language to characterize the entire affair, a hunting operation. He believes he was targeted specifically as a senior of foreign origin, and he calls it an organized form of horrific torture. So this brings us to the legal core of his claim, the violation of due process. Now, this is a fundamental constitutional guarantee that says the government has to respect all of a person's legal rights before taking their life, liberty, or property. In an eviction, this isn't just a guideline, it's a strict legal framework. It means a landlord can't just throw someone out, they have to provide proper notice, and most importantly, they have to get a formal judgment from a court. This process is really the bedrock of our justice system. To describe his removal, Dr. Fayad uses a truly chilling phrase, a civil execution. And why that phrase? Because he alleges he was expelled from his home without ever being shown a formal court judgment, which is a critical, non-negotiable step in the legal eviction process. So after laying out all of these serious allegations, the complaint pivots. It's not just a story anymore. It becomes a clear and direct appeal for action from the Attorney General.
And his demands are very specific. First, he wants an immediate and independent investigation into what he calls the barbarism of the city's police and administration. Second, the restoration of his dignity. And finally, he's demanding full accountability for every single person who participated. Ultimately, the entire complaints, all these pages, it really boils down to this one central question for the Attorney General. It's a question that challenges the very foundation of legal procedure and a citizen's rights. And it forces us to ask, where is the line between lawful enforcement and an abuse of power?